This is an upgrade to the video The Time Travellers of Rendlesham and the Earth Grid. It's a strange story, apparently revealed in parts to three people who have never met. Possibly this is deliberate, to rule out collaboration in a made-up story. One of them is Jim Penniston, a witness to a landed craft during the UFO sightings at Rendlesham in 1980. The second was Gloria Hazel of Staines. The third was myself. During the famous Rendlesham UFO incidents, one of the witnesses, Sergeant Jim Penniston, touched a landed craft, and a series of ones and zeros appeared in his head and didn't stop till he had written them down in his notebook. 30 years later, these were recognised as binary code and deciphered as a message in English giving longitude and latitude references to a number of ancient sites across the world, and implying the senders were time travellers doing an exploration of humanity from the years 666 to 8100, 6,000 years in the future. It also implied that their origin was a mystery island off the coast of Ireland, which has appeared on several ancient maps, but which has never been able to be reached. The possibility that it is a submersible extraterrestrial base was considered. There seemed to be time anomalies during Jim Penniston's encounter, a sensation of time slowed and missing time. This could be caused by proximity to a time engine. In between the encounter and the deciphering were several other occurrences which seemed to have been found to be related. In March 1992, I was working as a resource assistant for TVEI, the Technical and Vocational Education Initiative, a local authority education project, and had been involved in setting up a weather satellite system at our unit in Chertsey, linked to the Meteosat satellite. I found a picture of the area of Britain and Ireland that had a white dot off the coast of Ireland that I thought could have been a UFO at the time, but looking at it recently was surprised to see it was in the position of the phantom island of High Brazil, Ireland's mystery island, as marked on a 14th century map. In 2003, I had emails from Gloria Hazel, in which she spoke of feelings that the area of Chertsey Abbey was particularly special, and that she had had similar feelings in the 1980s in Sedona, Arizona, and thought there might be a lay joining them. She had also had a UFO sighting in Chertsey about the same time, shining down beams of light, as at Rendlesham. Plotting the points on a globe, I found a great circle between them would go through the area of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. In 2020, 10 years after the deciphering, I saw a TV programme in the Ancient Aliens series about the Rendlesham occurrence and the message. Though I had heard of Rendlesham, I hadn't heard of the message before. I was astonished to find that Sedona and the Great Pyramid were two of the places mentioned in it, and that the line seemed to go through the position of High Brazil on the old map. I later found that one of the other places mentioned in the message, the Portara at the Temple of Apollo at Naxos, Greece, also seems to be on this line. There seem to be latitude and longitude references to significant places which some researchers have linked with Earth energy grids. The message reads, Exploration of Humanity 666-8100 52.0942532 north 13.131269W. This is the reference for High Brazil, the phantom island of Ireland. Continuous for planetary advance. Fourth coordinate continuot UQS CBPR before 16.763177 north 89.117768 west Caracol, Belize, Mayan ruins. 34.800272 north 111.843567 west Sedona, Arizona, regarded as energetic and spiritual, sometimes called the American Glastonbury. 29.977836 north 31.131649 east Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt. 14.701 505S, 75.167.043 West, Nazca lines in Peru, 36.256845 North, 117.100632 East, Taishan Q, China, known as China's holiest mountain, 37.110195 North, 25.372281 East, Potara at Temple of Apollo in Naxos, Greece. Eyes of your eyes, origin 52.0942532 North, 13.131269 West, High Brazil. Origin year 8100. But why does the exploration start at the year 666? Most of the sites in the references are much older, and if it goes 6,000 years into the future, why not a similar amount of time in the past? But it is the date of the founding of Chertsey Abbey, and it was Gloria's feelings about this place that led her to postulate the line from Sedona. It was a Benedictine monastery founded in 666 AD by Saint Erkenwald, who was the first abbot, and from 675 AD the Bishop of London. At the same time he founded the abbey at Chertsey. Erkenwald founded Barking Abbey on the Thames, east of London, where his sister Saint Ethelburga was the first abbess. There is no known earlier structure on the site of Chertsey Abbey, but there is evidence that the site was significant at least in Roman times. There seems to be a Roman branch road leaving the main London to Silchester road by St John's Church, Egham, going to Thorpe, and then the Chertsey Abbey site, where it forms a junction with two others. I investigated this road several years ago, though a stretch of it had been written by others before. The branch road seems to run south from Egham Church, where there is banking visible, past the Edgell Stone, to a sharp turn on Stroud Road, where there are crop marks and Roman bricks were found. It then runs along banked paths towards Thorpe Church, where there were Roman buildings, and then along a narrow field called the Road, and a possible causeway to Chertsey. It may form another junction when it meets Ferry Lane. The branch road seems to leave the main road at Egham Church, a Saxon church site, which would be on the course of the main road and thus the site of the junction of this spur, if the causeway route for the main road is correct. The 17th century drawing of Egham by artists travelling with the Grand Duke of Tuscany, sold as a postcard in Egham Museum, seems to show higher land that side of the picture. Looking behind the present Egham Church, there still seems to be a bank running in a southerly direction. Manor Farm is adjacent to this spot, and Turner's book says that a denarius, Roman penny, of Tiberius, the emperor at the time of Jesus Christ, was found there. As there was only one minting in the time of Tiberius, it's likely that this was identical to the one Jesus reportedly held up and said, "Whose image is this and whose inscription?" Also, a Roman fibula, brooch, was found at Milton Place, which is fairly close to the spur. Great Foster's, now a hotel, is a 16th century mansion, but the moat behind it predates it, and is at least Saxon, but the curved corners suggest it may have been Roman. Corners were curved, as straight corners would have been a weak point defensively. The course of the branch road from Egham seems to go through the moat. There were a number of pieces of iron slag found near Great Foster's. Also some pieces of tile. These are similar to pieces of slag and tile thought to be Roman, present in the wall of Bisley Church. There is no historical evidence of ironworking here in more recent times. Turner's book says the road could be a branch road leading to some entrenchments near Penton Hook. If this was the case, and presumably meaning the earthwork on Leyland Burway, the road would have to make a right-angled turn somewhere beyond Great Fosters. This right angle seems to be present on Stroud Road. A portion of bank at Quint's Cottage is at right angles to another, which runs along a field boundary and seems to be the best preserved stretch of the branch road. The bank has a wide flat top of about the same width as the one on the Egham Causeway bank. 2 Roman bricks were found by the bank, running from Stroud Road across the field towards Thorpe. Marks south of the field boundary off Stroud Road, along which the branch road runs, from multimap aerial picture. Opposite there seem to be 2 boundaries running north. The combined length is about the same as that of the Roman Circus racetrack found in 2005 at Colchester, which is about 350 metres long. Most circuses were about the same size. This picture also shows the moat behind Great Foster's Hotel. In times of heavy rain, this area has become flooded. Beyond the bridge over the stream, the line of the road continues as a path till it reaches the M25. There are 2 footpaths in the same alignment from the motorway bridge to Thorpe. Both have banks beside them and are field boundaries, although the present paths are not on the banks. The one from the bridge to the B388 has the bank on the right of the path, looking towards Thorpe, and the one from the B388 to Thorpe village has the bank on the left. The road then goes past the site of Thorpe Church, where a Roman cinerary urn was found. Also the vicar, Canon Rothwell, has indicated that the building itself is on Roman foundations, found during the refurbishment of the church. Subsequent to finding the evidence for the Roman branch road from Egham to Thorpe, first suggested by Frederick Turner in his book on Egham, Canon Rothwell has indicated the presence of the sites of 3 Roman buildings at Thorpe Church. These were revealed at the reordering and strengthening of the church in the 1990s, which were necessary as the building was in a bad state of repair, and there was a real possibility of collapse, as the east wall had begun to sink into the cavity below the east end. Generations of communicants had gathered round the altar on a piece of slate no more than an inch thick. One of the buildings is a small rectangular structure, possibly an early Roman grain store, which would, prior to the 19th century, have been just outside the south wall of the church, but which is now under the south aisle, towards the west end. The second is what seems to be the foundations of a high-status building, revealed by the fact that the church's pillars are built on Roman brick bases, and there is a compressed clay layer 12 feet down, which extends beyond the present building, and was thought to be the Roman floor level. This means there could have been further pillars on the north side of the church, and possibly some on the south, making a building somewhat larger than the church. There were some Roman mosaic tesserae found near one of the pillars on the south side, and part of a black and white incised tile. All this would have been outside the church prior to the Norman period, as the church then consisted of what is presently the chancel, and was a private chapel of the abbot of Chertsey. The third building is later still, under the chancel and projecting beyond it to the east, and is a crypt of Roman construction. The part beyond the east wall is a large apse.
like half a dome. At the time of the reordering, Canon Rothwell put an advertisement in a newspaper asking if any former naughty boys of the congregation who had been down into the crypt could describe what was there. There were 3 replies and all agreed. There was a large space under the chancel with a rounded end at the east end, beyond the east wall, and with a stone bench running round it. There were coffins and urns inside, and there was also something like a bath in the floor, bigger than a font. This arrangement suggested a Mithraeum, as it is underground and similar in style to the one which is now exposed to view in London. Mithraea were often underground as they represented the cave where Mithras overcame the bull. If above ground, they were not allowed any windows. It was probably a separate building to the one with the pillars, as there was packed earth between its wall and the nave cavity, which also contained coffins. There were 2 entrances in the crypt, one at the east end, and was covered by a metal grille. It's now blocked by stones, but the shape can still be seen. The other was where the passage to the Rotherwick room now is, but was originally outside the south side of the church. It was a stone with a metal ring, under which was a staircase leading down eastward, then turning at right angles to the north and entering the crypt from the south side. In the east end was found a small, portable Christian altar stone, which was dated before 300 AD, as it had 4 consecration crosses, the early practice which represented the 4 horns on the Jewish altar. After this time 5 crosses were incised into altars, representing the 5 wounds of Christ. On top of this was a Roman cinerary urn, which was thought to be Christian as it had a wavy pattern, possibly representing the waters of baptism. The altar stone is now let into the Jacobean altar table in the church, and the cinerary urn is on display in the chancel. The east end of Thorpe Church, the apse of the crypt, projects beyond the present wall, under the surface. Gill Williams' map of Thorpe village centre in 1810 shows the path coming southwards from the church, then making an almost right-angled turn to follow a long narrow field called the Road. She writes that there was also a field boundary continuing the same line, and that the path meets the present course of Monk's Walk on the boundary of Thorpe to cross a stream at Burridge Stile. These areas are now largely flooded by the Thorpe Park lakes, but the public footpath of Monk's Walk still passes between them, crossing one by a bridge. There is a substantial bank on the right, looking towards Chertsey, for most of the way. Gill Williams' maps covering 1650 to 1810 and 1550 to 1650 also show the south-running track and the road track, and of the period 1215 to 1350 she writes that a causeway was said to link Thorpe and Chertsey. There does not seem to be any indication that it went further, suggesting this was its ultimate destination. However, it has been suggested that the alignment of Ferry Lane and Guildford Street, Chertsey, is part of a Roman road. There are stretches of road in its alignment between Ashford and Laleham, and between Ottershaw and Woking. Suzanne Gailey gives evidence for this and a settlement in Chertsey in an archaeological assessment of land at Percroft Road. The possibility of Roman settlement at Chertsey has been recognised since the discovery of residual Roman pottery sherds and tiles on the site of Chertsey Abbey during excavations in 1953. It has been suggested that the straight alignment of Woking Road, Guildford Street and Ferry Lane may have been a Roman road leading to a crossing on the River Thames at Laleham, and other isolated finds have been discovered locally. thus there could be a junction with another Roman road here. These three apparent Roman roads, the Egham Branch Road, Stonehill Road Chobham and Guildford Street Chertsey, seem to converge at the site of Chertsey Abbey. Just north of this, at a spot on Abbey Mead, just south of the present motorway, the aerial picture from the old multi-map site seems to show a crop mark, possibly indicating some kind of structure. The pattern of this is extremely similar to that of a Roman villa at Tockenham, Wiltshire, which was investigated by Time Team in 1994. The convergence of these three roads seems to indicate that the site of the abbey was a site of some importance in Roman times. Like several other abbeys, Chertsey Abbey is built below a powerful hill. In this case it's St Anne's Hill, which is an Iron Age hill fort, but has post holes of Bronze Age buildings in its area. In Gloria's UFO sighting at Chertsey, the craft moved in the direction of the hill and seemed to be shining beams of light onto it. It was originally called Oldbury Hill, and like Glastonbury Tor, it had a chapel on its summit, in this case dedicated to St Anne, Mother of the Virgin Mary, which gave it the present name. In the Bronze Age, the hill fort was constructed with a bank and ditch, enclosing an area of about 625 hectares, within which stood a series of wooden buildings. The southeast part of the hill was also occupied in the early Middle Iron Age.
He also mentions the tradition of a subterranean passage from Chertsey Abbey to St Anne's Hill, but says he has no faith in it. It could, however, be memory of a lay, and there does seem to be one skirting the southern ramparts of the hill and going through the site of the abbey, and certainly we found lays going through the remains of Chertsey Abbey. In one direction it goes through Virginia Water Church, in the other through a tower and earthwork at Hersham, Chessington Church and an earthwork not far from it.
There are two other alignments meeting at the abbey which further suggests it was of earlier significance. There is a page on the Exeter University website, alerted to me by Charlotte Young, which gives further evidence for it. There is a line which connects St Catherine's Hill, an Iron Age hill fort near Winchester, with the site of a stone circle on the Isle of Portland and Chertsey Abbey. It also goes through the stone in the New Forest, marking the spot where King William Rufus, son of William the Conqueror, was killed, and they call the line the Rufus Line. It crosses the Isle of Portland through Victoria Square Eastern. It leads up to the north-eastern cliff range, going through the Grove Young Offenders Institute. There was a stone circle on this site before the present building was put up. The line then crosses Weymouth Bay to St Oswald's Bay, partway between Durdle Door and Lulworth Cove. Approaching London, it goes through the site of Chertsey Abbey. But there is another line, called the St George Line, which crosses the Rufus Line at right angles at Chertsey Abbey. It comes from the round tower at Windsor Castle, built by William the Conqueror in the 11th century. There is no known earlier structure here, although Jean Froissart, 14th century French chronicler, wrote that King Arthur instituted the Knights of the Round Table here. Also, Time Team found the site of the Round Table built by Edward III. It's the Queen's favourite residence. Then it goes through Magna Carta Island in the Thames, one of the contenders for the sealing of the Magna Carta by King John. Then it goes through the Chertsey Abbey site, and on to St George's Hill, Weybridge, a hill fort which now has a high-status housing estate on it. So it seems very possible that the site of Chertsey Abbey was a significant point in earlier centuries, a destination point of Roman roads, and a convergent point of prehistoric alignments. It's not clear why it was not given a longitude and latitude reference in the message, even though it's implied that the year of its founding was the beginning of the exploration of humanity. But it's not clear why it should be so significant that it marks the beginning of the whole project.